They never went to Ellis Island. I am a descendant of an undocumented worker that just snuck into this country behind everyone's backs. And do you know why no one cared? Because what were they given? Nothing but freedom. Our Statue of Liberty says, bring me your poor, your tired, and your wretched, and under the banner of freedom they will make themselves great. And what are we doing today? You see, we don't have freedom to give them, so we don't want them here. That's the problem. We are all slaves to our government. Every time you get paid, you're a slave to the government. They create the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. For those that don't know, that is the Communist Manifesto. You have a group of producers, and you have a group of entitlement. My generation is an entitlement generation. Every person I talk to that's my age loves entitlements. They're entitled to it. They were told that their whole lives. Talk to someone under the age 30, which I barely am, and ask them, tell them, do you believe in global warming? Well, you know what? Our most trusted people my entire life have told me there was global warming. Do you realize that I almost got kicked out of 5th grade because I told my teacher that global warming is the biggest hump of crap I've ever heard of? And do you know why I believe that? Because I believe in the cross.
Right.
And I believe that God created this earth and there ain't a person in this world that can destroy it.
That's right.
That's just me, though. That's what I believe.
That's right.
You see, the most simplest government program causes liberty to vanish. It causes us not to live up to our own pledge, a pledge that we used to take every day when we showed up to school. Liberty and justice for all. But until we have it back, how can we give it away? So, we've already talked about how most of the federal government is unconstitutional. I mean, you know, they stopped using the Constitution decades ago. There's probably people in this room who can argue all the way back to before Abraham Lincoln. They stopped trying to use the Constitution, which is actually true. So, what can we do? Do we want to just vote them all out of office, which is a great idea, and fill it full of a whole other group of people? Well, guess what's going to happen? Give those people 10 years. And they're going to be corrupted just like everybody else because Washington is full of power. And power corrupts. If we do not start getting our power back where it belongs, Ninth Amendment to us, then what are we doing? Absolutely nothing. You see, the answer can only be through nullification because nullification tells the federal government that we don't have to listen to you. Now, think about the power that the federal government has, and then think about how few people have that power, an enormous amount of power bestowed upon such a few amount of folks. And it can't be that way. The concept of nullification is not some crazy rogue conservative from Dallas, Texas, who drove all morning to come down here and talk to you. I didn't make this up. And in fact, I'm not even the leading proponent of nullification. You have Judge Napolitano, you have Thomas Woods. I mean, these are great men that understand something. I actually read Thomas Wood's book before I even started doing this. You see, nullification was written by a sitting vice president. A sitting vice president. His name was Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson signed the Declaration of Independence, actually pretty much wrote the Declaration of Independence, and he wrote nullification. In the Kentucky Resolutions of 1798, Jefferson made a pretty simple claim. He said, who came first, the chicken or the egg, the states or the federal government? States came first. If the states came first, they banded together in order to form a more perfect union. On the back of that woman's shirt right there, the states came together in order to form a more perfect union. They gave away certain and limited powers to the federal government. Now, whose job is it to make sure the federal government only attains to the 17 powers that we give them? We've all been told our whole lives it's the Supreme Court. Well, the man that was in the room, that his handwriting can be seen if you go down to Washington, D.C., is writing the Constitution, says you're exactly wrong. It is the states. If the states have the power, they gave away the power, they can police the power. Right. The states were here first, and the federal government was given very limited and defined and certain powers. He even went as far in the Kentucky Resolutions to say that if we don't nullify, he didn't quite use the words, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but if we don't void these laws, then what are we doing? He says we're then allowing the Supreme Court to judge the federal government, and that's going to make it grow out of control. Hello, here we are today. We've allowed the federal government to grow out of control because we're trusting the Supreme Court. We've been brainwashed to say, no, let the Supreme Court do it. Now, if this isn't enough, James Madison. You know what byline is given to James Madison? The father of the United States Constitution. Let's just take a second and historically and look at this. The two men that wrote about nullification, one of them wrote the Declaration of Independence, the other is known as the father of the Constitution, and one of them wrote the lines and every little word written in both of those documents, and both of them became presidents. This isn't made up. This isn't some crazy Samuel Adams or Patrick Henry that didn't do much politically. These are presidents of the United States of America that are telling us we have to exercise these powers. In the Virginia resolutions, he said that the Union will cease to exist if the states do not police the federal government. That's what James Madison said. An interesting side note on James Madison is that his wife, Dolly, ran into the burning White House and grabbed a portrait of the greatest man in American history by the name of George Washington, put it in a wagon and carried it out of the White House while the White House burned. So you want to talk about someone that understands what this country is all about. Now, before we really dive into the politics of nullification, let's think about the logic. I have 3 sons. My life is all about being a dad, really. And my son has to go to bed at 8 o'clock. Does anyone have a kid that likes to push their limits? Because those really don't exist. My oldest loves to push me. Let's just say 7:45 rolls around and I say, all right, buddy, it's time for bed. And he says, no, Dad, I'm going to read a book. Just for, 30 minutes and then I'll go to bed. I have a choice. I can sit and I can confer with him and try to convince him that it's the right thing to do. He's young, he has a growing mind, a growing body, and he needs his rest. Or I can nullify his decision, put his butt in bed. Who has the power, him or me? So now, let's look, I almost tripped. Now let's look at how the politics of nullification works. The federal government passes a law that's unconstitutional, pretty much anything they've done in the last 50 years. The states then turn around and they write a resolution. A resolution of nullification. Many of y'all seen HCR 50. That wasn't a nullification resolution. A nullification resolution tells them that law is nullified, plain and simple. Then they pass it through both houses, has to go through the House and the Senate, and get signed by the governor. Once that's done, that law does not exist in the state of Texas. Plain and simple. There is no Supreme Court, and there are no lawyers. It is the state saying no. Good. And this can be done. The federal government is limited by Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. If you have never read the United States Constitution, do not go to sleep tonight without reading it. It is a quick read, it's a beautiful document, and it is easy to understand. In Article 1, Section 8, where can they force cap and trade? Where can they force a healthcare takeover? Where can they limit gun ownership? Where can they own a bank? Where can they get inside the state lines and regulate commerce? Where can they make us buy health insurance? Where can they even have an EPA? Think about that. Where's the EPA in the Constitution? They were given 17 powers, and one of them wasn't to regulate carbon dioxide. If they do not have the authority, those laws don't exist in the state of Texas. This can be done. This is definitely a way for other states to join us. So many states are fighting at the bit. New Hampshire has a nullification movement, but that's where a bunch of objectivists moved to, if y'all understand the objectivist movement. They all went to New Hampshire, so it's a crazy state like us. But nullification is well within the state's rights and the state's responsibilities to do it. Now, this is at the point, before I unveil exactly what I think we should do, is y'all tell me that this all sounds great, power to the people, but what are we supposed to do about it? And how are we supposed to get involved? Everyone in this room, I believe, understands that we have to get our personal liberty back, or else my sons will be worse slaves to this government than we already are. But I tell you, I'm going to give you a plan. Now, if y'all are like me, you get about 4 or 5 plans a day in your email box. Some of them are absolutely and utterly ridiculous. Some of them are extremely complicated, and some of them are really, really good. Now, I can tell you, I don't have a plan for everything. I have no plan to stop Al Gore from trying to convince you that the polar ice caps are going to wash us all away. No plan for that. I have no plan to stop Harry Reid, Barney Frank, and Nancy Pelosi from opening their mouths. No plan for that either. And I have no plan to stop the dirty backroom mobster politics of Barack Obama. I have no plan for that, but I do have a true and utter clear plan for nullification. It goes like this.